What we're going to look at today is a couple of scenarios, one with Facebook and one with Twitter. These are true life events. We're looking at cases that have gone through both the Employment Tribunal and also the Employment Appeal Tribunal. So you've had two stages of litigation. So one of your employees has made some comments about work on Facebook. His Facebook page is public, so anybody can see it. Comments made a couple of years ago. But nevertheless, I think you'll agree, they are fairly strongly worded. Let me paraphrase. He doesn't like his supervisor very much because he's got unpaid overtime. He's really not looking forward to going to work after the weekend. He's referring to the company name and again desperate to see his friends and colleagues. He hates his work and it's just the people as much as anything else. And then the kind of the final section, I have to put some context to it, which is this particular individual is effectively on call. So he is at home but on work time. And he's on a rota and he could be called out in an emergency situation. So as you can see, he's on standby. Apparently vodka and apple, you only get half drunk. That's probably the apple, balances out one of your 5 a day. He's not going to let everybody drown, just the people from Braid Square, which is his colleagues, we understand. Do we think this is acceptable? And really, what would we do if we were at work and one of our colleagues came to us and said, this has happened, or I've seen this on Facebook, what do I do? Yeah, I mean, quite serious kind of words that he's using. Obviously, the language is quite colourful, but we've got clear issues of insubordination, disrespect for his colleagues, disrespect for his employer. We've got questions about judgment. I mean, this individual, he's working on kind of flood response. Do you trust this individual to make the right decision and do the right thing? And of course, we've got questions of drinking on work time. I would suggest that we'd be looking at disciplinary action pretty quickly, and with potential looking at gross misconduct, I would say. Fairly serious stuff. So let's assume we invite him to a disciplinary. He says this. He's the best employee ever, basically. His performance reviews are always good, so no issues with how he does his job. He's never had disciplinary record. He says he's never been drunk while he's on standby. It's all just been made in jest with his friends, and it's banter. He says he didn't realise that it was public. He thought it was a private conversation. It was done outside of work. So it's not that he's kind of logging on in his lunch break or whatever, or while he should be doing something. He's done it in his own time. He says no harm has come of the comments. So no one drowned, and no kind of damage to the company. And he did it kind of once or one series of comments and never again. He's also said he's sorry. And he also says his team leader knew about it for a while and didn't do anything about it. Now, does that change the colour of what he said, or the severity of what he said, or what your reaction to it might be?
I guess if his team leader had known about it and done nothing, he was, effectively condoning it, wasn't he? So
yeah.
I think you're on slightly
dodgy
ground.
Yeah, really difficult. I mean, normally you would react to a serious conduct issue quickly, because if you don't do anything about it, exactly as you say, the risk is you're condoning it. You're saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter on this occasion. Even if it's not particularly serious, you still need to bring them in and give them a rap on the knuckles and make it clear that this kind of behaviour wasn't acceptable. So I think we're all agreed, pretty serious. So I think we're looking at gross misconduct. Would we automatically dismiss for gross misconduct? Trick question, no. You must not automatically link gross misconduct with dismissal. There have been cases, including this one, that say if you make a finding of gross misconduct, you must also consider separately what the appropriate sanction might be. So in this situation, you might take the view, 2 years ago, he's not done it since, he's apologised, he's got a good record, it was kind of on his own time, and although what he said is very serious, you might think perhaps that a final written warning might be appropriate. And what you would need to show is you need to show that you had exercised some balance, some decision making in deciding whether it kind of tipped over in favour of final written warning or actually whether it was so serious to be gross misconduct. And I have to say, I think I would probably say gross misconduct. Although that period of time, that 2-year gap with the line manager knowing about it or the team leader knowing about it, does make it a little bit difficult. But let's see what actually happened. So it's a genuine case, the British Waterways and Mr. Smith. So the employer did dismiss. They thought it was serious enough, damaged their reputation, issues of health and safety, trust and confidence was a significant factor for them. And the Employment Tribunal said that was unfair, that they should not have dismissed him. They thought about factors including the period of time that had elapsed, whether they'd really considered his defence and those kind of things. And happily for everybody, the Employment Appeal Tribunal overruled the Employment Tribunal, said it was a fair dismissal and actually the Employment Appeal Tribunal left it at that point and said, yeah, fair dismissal, end of it. What you need to show as an employer where you're looking at gross misconduct is you need to have an honest belief in guilt based on reasonable grounds following a reasonable investigation, which I think is not very difficult actually. And you need to show that your decision falls within what's called the band of reasonable responses. So if another employer in your shoes could have reasonably dismissed, then thumbs up, fair dismissal. And actually, gross misconduct, I think, is the easiest way to get rid of someone, actually, rather than capability or kind of simple conduct or redundancy or anything like that. If someone does something serious, that kind of undermines the working relationship. As long as you tick those boxes and you've got that big banner of reasonable in your mind, and you speak to us and we make sure everything's done correctly, then you should be successful in defending yourself.